It's so easy to spend $100,000 on an electric pickup truck. All you have to do is pick from Ford, GMC, Chevy, Rivian, or Tesla.
You have a lot of options, but if you want that $100,000 to buy a luxury truck, you really have two choices: the GMC Sierra EV or the Rivian R1T, which we have here in Tri-motor version. That's 750 horsepower versus 850 horsepower. We have driven these trucks on road, in the cities, on highways. We've towed with them, we've put payload in the beds. We've also gone off-road. So let's find out who builds the better luxury pickup truck.
A better luxury electric pickup truck.
What really matters is how they drive.
Let's go out on the road.
We're driving a Rivian R1T Tri motor. And so the R1T's been around for a few years, but for 2025, we get a handful of updates, including all new models like this Tri motor and a revised quad motor that makes huge amounts of horsepower. The Tri motor that we're in makes 850 horsepower and more than 1,100 pound-feet of torque. That's crazy. And so this is not the quickest R1T, and yet it does 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. You drove this thing all week. You drove it with payload in the bed, 1,000 pounds of payload. You drove it unloaded. Did you ever find yourself saying, damn, I really wish I had more than 1,000 horsepower in the quad motor?
No, this is a rocket ship in just about every scenario, and I'd venture to say it's too powerful.
Really? Why do you say that?
I just know that it is. It's interesting because you know the horsepower, you know the torque, you know what that pedal can do. That's the too powerful part. The fun part is when you actually put your foot down. It doesn't act like it's too powerful. It knows what to do with the horses and the torque. This is the second most powerful option if you want to get into a Rivian R1T. So above this quad motor.
We've never driven the base dual motor, but we've driven the dual motor performance, the Tri, the quad now. None of them are slow. The dual motor performance has 600 horsepower, something like that, and it's 0 to 60 in like 3.5 seconds. We're not hurting for horsepower.
And let's just say those numbers slowly again. 600 horsepower in a pickup truck, and someone's going to say, well, I want more than that. But yes, do you really need it?
Rivian's whole pitch is the adventure lifestyle. It says right here on the dash, adventurous forever. And I find this slightly annoying because I hate repeating the marketing, but the marketing in this case, it's not just people sitting at their desks coming up with creative taglines and that kind of stuff. It's an ethos that feels like it carries through to the engineering, to the design, the product planning, really. Every aspect of this truck fits into that. So it's not just marketing BS. It's actually what the product's all about. So these cars have pretty amazing software, tons of different drive modes, whether it's sport mode to get the most out of that 850 horsepower, off-road modes, and then when you're parked even, camp mode, right? And camp mode allows you to run the power when you're parked kind of indefinitely, but it also uses the air springs in this car to level the vehicle so that if you have a rooftop tent or if you were sleeping in the bed of the truck, your head's not facing downhill, you're getting a great night's sleep, right? Cool things like the gear tunnel between the bed and the cab for stashing wet, stinky, dirty gear, a great frunk for secure storage, a pretty cool rigid folding tonneau cover. They've really kind of thought about this brand, what it could be and what it should be, and then gave that to the engineers and said, make this happen. And the engineers totally lived up to the brief.
So it's safe to say the adventure lifestyle, it's not just a sticker package for Rivian. That's how this vehicle was built from the ground up.
Yeah, and you're a hardcore off-roader. I'd say you very much lived that lifestyle. You worked for four-wheeler for a long time before you worked for MotorTrend. You own a Jeep, you own a crusty old military truck, you weren't necessarily an EV enthusiast when you came over to the MotorTrend side, but now you've driven tons of EVs. I'm curious how you feel about Rivian and this truck in particular. Could you ever imagine yourself driving this, owning it?
Great to talk about this just as we pull onto a rougher dirt road. This is in the last few years, I have driven tons of EVs. This is one of the few EVs that is tailored toward enthusiasts. A lot of the vehicles out there, yes, they can go through the snow or through the dirt, and they have a couple of tools here and there that make off-road travel tolerable. This is an enthusiast vehicle. This is an enthusiast EV.
Yeah.
And this has rock crawl mode, that they took time to calibrate that pedal. So if you're doing some technical off-roading, your foot can bounce on the accelerator. The vehicle continues to move forward at a slow and smooth pace. Huge thing for people driving off-road. You mentioned all of the camping modes that Rivian built into the R1T. From someone that slept in the bed of a truck with their head all kinds of places it shouldn't be, being able to level out that truck after a day on the trails, it's huge. There's the little things that this electric truck has that cater directly toward enthusiasts. And you're not working within the confines of the truck. Like the truck is built for you as someone that wants to go out there and have fun.
Does it have a name? Because, the Silverado has wide open watts mode. And I haven't heard GMC refer to this as a named feature, but I like just dropping the hammer.
Whoa!
It's significant, the difference, right?
Yes.
And so the Sierra EV makes 754 horsepower when you're dropping the hammer.
And that's all for a button that isn't, aside from the blue illumination, you might not even know it's there.
Yeah, I would say in contrast to the Rivian, where the drive modes are very prominent and they're kind of core to the identity of that vehicle, this has normal, off-road, tow haul, my mode, and then it's got this kind of, full power hammer acceleration mode, which you can have on when you're in tow haul mode or off-road mode. So it's like a layer on top of the actual drive modes.
But there's nothing on this screen, if I was a first-time EV owner, telling me that this button here means super duper power.
And other than that kind of initiation sound effect, there's no real theatrics to it.
Yeah, we went straight from a simulated moon launch, that moonshot, to here's your little hammer in the corner, have fun, hit it. It does give you the boost.
But maybe that's the smart move, right? Because the Hummer is for somebody who's kind of an attention-seeking customer. And I think this is very much for someone who is looking for as much attention as any other Sierra driver, right? Which, like a Sierra and a Silverado and an F-150 are just the cars Americans drive. They blend into everyday life. Nobody gives them a second glance. Ooh, so now you can see me steer here
that?
wandering. This vehicle torque steers, right? And the Silverado EV torque steers, and it's not like front-wheel drive gas cars where they would like really yank at your wheels. It's a much slower torque steer, and it's not jerking at the wheel, but it's really hard to kind of correct or mitigate or just stop it, right? Like the truck wants to wander back and forth, and every time I've launched these trucks, I've had that.
Oh, it's every single time.
You could kind of say that's the philosophical difference between these two trucks. This is the truck that's meant to blend in with the crowd, and the Rivian is the truck that's meant to be something different, where people in the know look at you and know who you are based on the truck you drive. This truck has 24-inch wheels. I would say in the small stuff, it rides surprisingly well. A lot of that like secondary vibration that you get in gas trucks, which have a very light bed that has stiff springs on it to accommodate when you're dropping 1,000 pounds in the bed. EVs are almost, 50-50 weight distribution. And so it seems like you can get a lot better ride quality in the natural unloaded state. You don't get a lot of that jittery ride. We did hit a few big holes back there though, where the big hits, a lot of disturbance makes its way up into the cabin. This truck has air springs, and yet I feel like they're a little underutilized. The truck lowers at highway speeds to improve aerodynamics. There's a switch on the side here that you can manually raise or lower it. In off-road mode, you could raise it for improved ground clearance.
When you had the Sierra at the test track and you were driving around the MotorTrend Oval, how did you feel the suspension was working, really getting into the corners?
I would say there's a pretty big difference in how this handles versus the Rivians. The eagerness to kind of corner and turn in, it feels like much more like a traditional gas pickup, which is to say, you know that cornering is not one of its strengths, right? There's a good bit of roll, for as much power as they have, they're not really overtly sporty in any way, other than acceleration, straight line acceleration.
There is no sport mode aside from hitting the hammer during normal off-road or tow haul. You don't have a designated track or sport mode in Sierra EV.
So the Rivian and the Sierra EV both have their own cargo tricks, right? The Rivian's trick is that gear tunnel, which is a pretty clever idea that we've never seen before. The Sierra's trick is the midgate, which also can be found on the Silverado EV, and of course was found many years ago on the Chevy Avalanche. They've refined the idea a bit. There's now a function where you can do a split fold function, so you can leave 2 seats up and fold 1 seat in the rear and open a little pass-through. Perfect for skis, fishing rods, a couple pieces of lumber, something like that. You can leave the glass in place and fold the bulkhead, and if you really wanted to, you could pop an air mattress in the bed and you could probably sleep with the climate control running. There's no camp mode like there is in Rivian, but you could probably create a weather enclosed space, climate control, sleep in it. So from your perspective, you were saying, the Rivian doesn't really work for the way these 1 or 2 cases where I go skiing every year. Would you rather have a truck? Let's not think about any other part of the package, only the cargo solutions. Would you rather have gear tunnel or midgate?
I really have to think about the things that I do frequently enough, and those things that become pain points. The first time I have that Rivian and there's nowhere to put the skis, it's upsetting to me. Yeah. Would that be enough to put me toward the Sierra where there's the midgate? It might be. Both these trucks ride really good on the road. The differences between them come down to packaging.
The Sierra is all about size. It's got that massive battery and great long range. It's got a huge cabin, and the full-size pickup bed is just as useful as in a gas Sierra.
The R1T is not quite as big, slightly smaller battery, smaller packaging, but it's a really great blend of daily driver and weekend adventure mobile.
And as good as it is on the road, the off-road part is where it really should shine.
At MotorTrend, we're always looking for new ways to push vehicles to their limits, not just on the road, but on all kinds of incredible off-road trails. From rock crawling to multi-day overland adventures, we use OnX Off-Road from start to finish, and even when stuff goes sideways. No cell reception? No problem. Just download a detailed base map before you set off, and OnX Off-Road's GPS will keep track of where you've been and where you're going. For land use boundaries, places of interest, thousands of trails graded by difficulty, and more, we use OnX Off-Road every time we get out in the dirt. If you want to discover places like the ones we explored today, scan the QR code or click the link in the bio to learn more about OnX Off-Road. So we should be as high as we can possibly go, and traction control is off. Everything else still showing the ride heights raising.
Maybe this is a nitpick, but the Rivian's totally unlike this. You can select a mode like rock crawl, and the Rivian will automatically go to high. In the GMC, you choose off-road, but it's still on you to now manually elevate the ride height.
So we're just crawling up as slow as the truck will let us go. And right now my foot is on the floor and the truck is not letting us go.
Yeah, so there's a power readout on the screen, and I can read it here, and it's peaking at like 20 kilowatts and not giving you any more than that, 25 kilowatts.
Oh, right now, we don't have tires in the air. Like, every tire is touching the ground right now. We're at we should have the readout tell us what angle we're at. Well, we're not at 45 degrees.
No, I don't even know if we're at 30 degrees.
Let's
high 20s maybe?
Let's try that again. This is not incredibly steep. Back in drive, we have all the right settings.
And the stability control light's flashing a little bit, and there's no stability control off setting. You can turn traction control off, but there's still something lurking.
If I go a little faster, don't. Oh, come on. I thought we had it.
And now this is where this truck struggles. If you lose your momentum and you come to a stop,
it's over. Now I have to back down again because it's not letting me go forward.
It's really bizarre. And we did this earlier, and we were watching from outside the car. The front axle might start slipping, and the rear never turns. And that's exactly the scenario where you think a two-motor powertrain is supposed to excel, right? Like, if the front axle's slipping, give us more torque at the rear. It's not evident that that's what's actually happening.
Okay, it seems like it wants me to maintain momentum going up this hill, but that's not the best way to get through a hill. My foot's on the floor, on the accelerator. I'm gonna try weaving that wheel. I'm hoping it doesn't give me all of the horses all at once.
It seems like there's no threat of that happening. They're very much watching over you. Okay, we made it, but not easy.
I can't imagine if that was my driveway and the family was in the truck.
Let's try that same thing in the Rivian R1T Tri.
Just driving around the roads between the obstacles of Hollyoaks, it feels like this truck is made to do this. So before we got started in the dirt, instead of just hitting off-road mode and having only a couple choices, we hit go off-road, and we have all-terrain, rock crawl, soft sand, rally, and even drift mode that we can choose from to fine-tune our off-road experience.
And then within that, we have the adjustable height. If we want to customize it beyond the preset, we can change our regen very easily, stability control. So we're pulling up on Mount Magna. I'm going to switch into rock crawl mode from all-terrain. It also turns off brake hold, which is great for that two-pedal driving you want to do here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick a harder line than we did in the Sierra EV because I think this is going to have a much easier time. So rock crawl, I will turn stability to its reduced setting. The air springs are automatically going up to their highest setting. And let's just roll on up this hill.
Can officially see nothing but blue sky in front of us. We are on a steep hill.
And as the truck slows down, I just feed in more accelerator. They've tuned this pedal really great. You use a decent bit of the travel, but it gives you so much control over how much torque you're delivering to the wheels.
And we just went through some 12-inch deep craters. And if we even floated a tire, the truck didn't tell us that we did. That hill was 20, we're looking at the screen. That was a 20-degree slope that we went up. You have all the tools here to have fun on so many different surfaces. You can hill climb. This has all the tools you need to rock crawl, the cameras, the throttle tuning. Like, this simulates the 4-low that you'd find in a Jeep or other trucks. And then this also lets you let the horsepower and torque loose and go drifting and play in the loose sand and the dirt. This truck can do a lot of really fun things and then lower itself right back down and drive home at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm willing to drive this truck quite a bit quicker on these transit roads because it feels so solid and so supple simultaneously. You know, kind of have some fun cornering here with some speed. What a fun truck.
The key to the Sierra is its size. It has a really big battery, incredible range, and super fast charge.
But I'm always trying to educate people that range and charging aren't as important as you think, because most people only use them a couple times a year for those long road trips.
Now, the key to the Rivian is versatility. It has plenty of range and battery for daily driving, but it has all the tools and tricks you need to take the family camping on the weekend, go play at the off-road park, and everything else in between.
So our pick for the most well-rounded, the best electric luxury pickup truck is the Rivian R1T. To read the full comparison of the R1T versus the Sierra EV,
and for more comparisons of new cars, trucks, and SUVs, visit MotorTrend.com.